Ladies and gentlemen, rejoice because we have made it to week 3 of movie night. We have not died yet. We have not missed a deadline yet. Though I did upload last week's a little late because I thought it was Wednesday when it was actually Thursday. It was a whole thing, alright? It's fine. It was only a few hours late. Everything's good. Today, episode 3, as we said last time, we're going to be covering Who Framed Roger Rabbit 1988. What a film it was. We'll talk about it more in a second. Usually I have my letterbox up while I'm doing this. Not that you guys can see it, but regardless. Now, usually we announce at the beginning the next movie that we'll do after this. But I've just remembered, right at this very moment, that I have not yet chosen one. So we might have to do that live right now. I do have a short list. I'm pretty sure it is public if you go on my letterbox, which is linked in the description below. Everybody should be following. What the fuck? Letterbox is great. I'm loving it. I've been rating some Bugs Bunny shorts recently because mostly I was thinking about some Looney Tunes, Warner Brothers type stuff because we were watching Roger Rabbit, of course. Old Bugs. Daffy shows up. Tweety Bird shows up. I think a bunch of them show up at the end too. I'm stuck between... Well, I've rated those, so if you want to see, like, 3 of the most famous ones. The one where Daffy fights with the artist dude and we're breaking the fourth wall. The opera one, that's fucking incredible. I even watched Carrot Blanca, which was their parody of Casablanca, which is the movie we covered last week. Quickly, because we're talking about Letterboxd and Casablanca real quick, we get housekeeping out of the way early in these fucking things. I did update Casablanca and did give it 5 stars, alright? None of this 4.5 nonsense. It's been bumped up to 5 stars. We had to, alright? Remember that fucking song? I remember it. Remember the whole scene surrounding it? Incredible stuff. Last time our structure was a little off, I feel like. And I'll change it up a little bit for this one because I have notes. I think we should do a little bit of a recap for the movie at the beginning of these. In case people are watching who haven't necessarily seen the movie, and things like that, and I think it'll structure things a little bit more. Because I feel like there are things that I didn't really talk about last week with Casablanca that would have if I'd gone through some sort of a recap. So at the beginning, we'll try that. Now, I'm stuck between 3 movies for what we're going to do next week. Gaslight, 1944, I believe, is the female lead, is the same female lead from Casablanca, plus... highly acclaimed movie. From Casablanca, I was in the mood for some more old black and white 40s Hollywood shit, and that seems right up the alley. An acclaimed movie. The other 2 that are on the mind are Apocalypse Now, which is a Francis Ford Coppola movie from Godfather fame, etc. The people know. This is a 79 movie. Hold on, I'm waiting for it to show up. Yep. And then the other one is Scarface, which is 84. Hold on, I gotta find Scarface on here. Those are the 4 that are leading, and I have to make my decision now. 83, I was wrong. I'm good with numbers and years. Fuck, I kind of want to do Gaslight the most. Obviously, that's where gaslighting probably comes from. We gotta get familiar with our modern overused psych terms through way of movies that inspired them 100 years ago. Not quite, but 80 years ago. 80 minus 2 is 78. 78 years ago. Apocalypse Now is cool. I think it's in 3rd right now. It's either Scarface or Gaslight. I think we're probably going to we're officially stamping it in Scarface next week, and we'll do Gaslight hopefully the week after. So, just because I want more variety, I guess that's 2 80s movies in a row, but they're very different 80s movies. Obviously, Scarface and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, rather different movies, I imagine. I've seen some scenes from Scarface, and everybody knows some of the famous lines from that one, which is a similar thing to what we were going through with Casablanca last time. I don't know if there are many lines that have existed in the cultural zeitgeist in perpetuity in Roger Rabbit, though there are some classic, maybe should be known in perpetuity lines in Roger Rabbit. We'll get to all of them shortly. So next week is Scarface. Everybody watch it. It's been locked in. Also, follow the letterbox. Keep up to date. You would have known that we had indeed updated Casablanca to be 5 stars. So, fuck me. How do you even check activity? Oh, the activity tab. But most of it's probably just added this to the watch list, added this to the watch list, added this to the watch list. I be adding things to the watch list, chat. We got things to do. Oh, I also bumped Casino up to 4.5 stars. Maybe when we get into rewatching movies, we'll talk about Casino on one of these things. Did I ever make a video on the second channel about Casino? I think I just talked to chat about it, because before we started this, it was like the most recent movie I'd seen. Regardless, let's actually get into some Roger Rabbit nonsense. Let me poke up the notes. Let me make sure everything's still recording on OBS. Yes, the notes. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Now, also, if you were following on Letterboxd, you would know that I ended up giving this one a big 4 stars. So it's the worst movie we've covered so far, though it was still a very enjoyable experience. 4 stars, nothing to scoff at, of course. I do have some complaints, but we'll talk about that as we progress. So Roger Rabbit is probably the first. Well, it's not the first. Now, and the reason why I wanted to do Roger Rabbit as one of the first 3 movies on movie night was because I've been catching up on the Red Letter Media videos for this year because I was behind on a bunch of them, and they did a review, you know how they spell it, they're weird like that, of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and they talk about a lot, and the sort of genre it is, and the history of that genre, and some things. All the things they talk about in their review stuff, they don't just talk about the movie. But I had watched all of that, so I knew basically all of the spoilers, and had seen most of the scenes in some sort of context, plus I'd seen a bunch of things over the years, like the dance introduction scene. Why am I forgetting Jessica Rabbit's name? And other things like that. They just do exist in perpetuity, I guess. I feel like most of my movie knowledge, especially for old movies, comes from like old Watch Mojo lists that I like binge watched when I was 11 years old or something. Like top 10 movies of this decade, and they'd run through everything, or best cartoons, or it gets you familiar with sort of the general accepted best, like in the zeitgeist. I'm saying zeitgeist a lot. I'm making myself cringe, let alone the audience. But so yes, I've been aware of Who Framed Roger Rabbit for a very long time. Now, this highly integrated cartoon aesthetic with live action acting, I guess, seems to have all been derived from this movie. Now, in that Red Letter Media review, they do show older footage of, even in the Looney Tunes documentaries I watched that I think I was shilling last time. How did it come up last time? I've been shilling it on stream. Some of the best videos I've watched all year, though I think only the 6th part came out this year. It's on, I remembered the name of the channel for a second. Just look up like Looney Tunes documentary. It has 6 parts, and he usually covers anime or something. Or something, that's what he covers. Old anime stuff. Great channel, great series of documentaries. But even the first Looney Tunes the first cartoon they ever did was sort of the, it's like a racist caricature. Not very nice. But it's like the early 1900s, all right? And it's like, I forget the name of the original Looney Tunes character. Bosco? I think I actually just remembered it. I'm a fucking genius. And he's like dancing and whatever on like a... What do you call it? Like it's not a skittle. It's one of the things where you hang, like, if you ever, in like primary school, your teacher would have like a piece of paper on a thingy so she could write on it. But she had a whiteboard right there. Why was she doing this? I don't remember. Nonetheless, it's on like a little stage thing, and the artist is right there drawing things for it, and it's interacting. So technically that's cartoons interacting with live action stuff. And also, I think in Mary Poppins, there's a segment where there's penguins on a table that I saw in the Red Letter Media review thing. So it had happened in the past, but this highly integrated where they're touching each other, and the whole movie is based on this. Seems to have come from Roger Rabbit. Now, this is obviously the most famous example of a movie like this is probably Space Jam and the Space Jam sequel, though I haven't seen the Space Jam sequel. That came out last year, I think, or the year before. Also, Looney Tunes Back in Action is a movie I remember vaguely seeing when I was like 4 years old. It also uses that sort of style. They also mentioned both of those in the review and everything as well. So yeah, this is sort of deriving from that. It is a cartoon integrated with live action movie. Probably everybody's seen Space Jam, so think about that, but it's a bit prettier than Space Jam. And it seems to have all been 2D drawn, which is also the behind the scenes aspect and how hard of a movie this was to make and how much of a nightmare this must have been for the animators is all talked about in that Red Letter Media video. We'll try to stop mentioning it as much. But it is also a like film noir film. Noir. I can say words. It's a mystery driven. It's set in the 40s in old Hollywood. Jessica Rabbit obviously is supposed to be this femme fatale type caricature. And Roger Rabbit. These are two of the characters that are created for this film because Bugs Bunny, Mickey Mouse, Daffy Duck, Donald Duck, Tweety Bird, they all have cameos in the movie. Now, I thought they were in it more, like it was some sort of Space Jam thing, but it really is like Roger Rabbit and the original toons, as they call them in the movie, that were created originally for this. Are the ones that are featured most. The bad guy. Oh, what are they? Are they hyenas? I love those guys. They might be my favorite characters in the film. The bad guy troop of gangster. I'm going to call them hyenas. I might be wrong with what specific animal they're supposed to be. They're great. But yes, so it's that, and there's a mystery about somebody's killing somebody, and it's a mystery that devolves. Roger Rabbit gets framed for the murder. He thinks his wife Jessica Rabbit is cheating on him. This all convolutedly, in a cute way, gets interwoven with our main character, who is the name I'm forgetting right now. I cannot believe it. Valiant. Jimmy Valiant? Valiant is his last name. He has a brother that died, and he has a tragic backstory. One of the most iconic lines from the film is the lead real-life female, the lead woman that is not Jessica Rabbit, but a real-life woman who is the love interest for Mr. Valiant, our main character, at one point delivers the line very deadpan. A Toon killed his brother, dropped a piano on his head, and it's a very sad, tragic thing. But it's a very funny line, regardless, and it sort of doubles as both. So his brother was killed, and it turns out that the dude behind all the murders in this is also the Toon that killed his brother, though he's, what do you call it, pretending to be a human and a judge, and it's a whole thing. Toontown and Hollywood live side by side. Like, this isn't a thing of, like, somebody's discovering that the Toons come to life. They are all integrated, and it's all an interwoven mystery thing. And it comes to a climax when we clear Roger Rabbit's name, we save him from danger, along with Jessica Rabbit. And also the arc of the main character is he's sort of, after his brother is killed by a Toon, he sort of comes to resent them, and he doesn't laugh anymore. He's a big negative drunk. And him sort of coming back, and how he sort of wins in the climax is by making everybody laugh. The hyenas that I love so much, who are the henchmen of the main bad guy, laugh themselves to death because he does some wacky things where he does some Toon-esque things where he throws weights up and it hits him on the head. He steps on the rake, it smacks him in the mouth. All the classics. While the movie really only relies on cameos from like the famous cartoon characters of our world, it does pay homage to a lot of the tropes. So like the rake or the dropping things on your head or anything like that. Those are repeated throughout quite a bit. There's also a lot of technical language references. Like at one point, to draw Roger Rabbit out, the main bad guy, I'm forgetting his name, Judge Doom is his fucking name. What a name for a bad guy. I can't remember what his name, because secretly he ends up being a Toon when he's trying to be a human, as I said. But I can't remember if he has a specific Toon name. Maybe it's just Doom as well. Dr. Doom? No, not that fella. But to lull Roger Rabbit out when he's in hiding, because they're going on the hunt for him and everything, he starts playing, I think, the Looney Tunes theme song that plays at the beginning of Looney Tunes. He starts tapping it, and Roger Rabbit can't resist, and he has to jump out to finish it. I think that's the song, but I didn't entirely get the reference while I was watching it the first time. So there are a lot of little references like that, and especially at the beginning, because the film starts as wholly animated, where it's Roger in one of his in-universe movies with his co-star, the baby, who was another great character, who we'll get into later. And it's like a whole animated sequence for like 4 minutes where if you didn't know any better, you wouldn't know that this was integrated with live action at all until like there's like you hear the director yell cut and human legs come into the screen, and it's a great little opening where it's like, oh, zooming out. I feel like things do that. There are other things I've seen that do the thing where it opens on like the TV show in the TV show, and then you zoom out with a cut. Maybe they're referencing Roger Rabbit. Maybe Roger Rabbit is referencing them. I don't remember where else I've seen it to know if it came out before this or if they're both mutually referencing something older. I can't pretend to know. Nonetheless, there are a lot of technical references too. There are other things in that opening sequence. He's referencing sorts of shots and other things like that. Some of them went over my head, as I think some of the cartoon references. Like I got the Betty Boop one. But at the beginning, obviously Dumbo is there, but Valiant is walking through. I forget what it's not Acme because he's the other studio, Maroon Studios or whatever. He's walking through there like a lot on set, and a bunch of the cartoons are walking around, and I didn't recognize many of them. So some of them went over my head, as did some of the technical references and the such. But if you're a diehard into this type of stuff, you probably eat that shit up, and it's probably great. That's enough of a plot recap. I felt like I had somewhere to jump into at the beginning, but now I've forgotten. Now all I'm thinking about is the baby. What a character. I guess this is where to start. Now, recently, after I watched those Looney Tunes videos, the documentary series, I watched a bunch of compilations on YouTube and elsewhere of a lot of the old Looney Tunes shorts. Now, I had seen a lot of them as a kid because I had a bunch of DVD collections of them, like 4 or 5, and they had like 12 shorts on them, all like each of them. So I'd seen a great deal of Looney Tunes, especially like the old, even 30s, 40s, 50s stuff, sort of that golden era of Looney Tunes. So I was going back and rewatching a lot of them once I had sort of the context of the behind the scenes and everything that was going on, as explained in the documentary, and rediscovering them as I was watching the documentary this year, the documentary series on YouTube this year. All of that shit is so good, and I would rave about it on stream about how great these fucking Looney Tunes are. And even watching some of the Tom and Jerry cartoons of the time and other things like that, and whenever I follow a bunch of Twitter accounts that post short clips from it and stuff, and even they're all still featured in memes all the time. There's something about the 50s, like I would just say 50s, even though I guess it's like 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, sort of this golden era of these animated shorts that appear before movies. But there's something about the timing and the voice acting, and specifically I think the scripting. Mel Blanc does all of those fucking voices, I'm pretty sure. And so it might all rest at his feet. But something about them and the timing of all the jokes is so perfect. And so Miller was watching along and watched ahead because I had said in the first one what the first 3 in our Blonde review, what the first 3 movies we were going to watch for movie night were. And he was confident that I would like it because I like old Looney Tunes stuff. I must say, this Roger Rabbit does not have the timing or the voice acting. Not that either of those things are bad. They're just not like those old Warner Brothers cartoons really at all. Roger is kind of a caricature of Bugs Bunny, I think intentionally, but he doesn't like have the charm or the seriousness of Bugs Bunny. And even when Bugs shows up in the movie, it feels very much like Bugs is doing his Lamau, "What's up, Doc" lines, and "Ain't I a stinker?" And then he sort of gets out. Like, Bugs Bunny is not really a highlight of this. It is cute seeing Bugs and Mickey Mouse on screen at the same time, as we pretend that, as Rich Evans pointed out in that review video, as we pretend that anybody gives a fuck about Mickey Mouse. Bugs is just so much cooler, you know. But it really didn't have that charm. It had a very different charm. It had a film noir charm. It had a sort of that 40s Hollywood-esque charm, I guess, of sort of the accents and going around and sort of the tropes, I guess, that are associated with film noir and the love story and that. That's all charming, and I like that. But it really didn't have like a... And I also found this in rewatching even the ones that I just rated on Letterboxd, those shorts, where they're sort of the dramatic shorts and sort of the ones that people herald as sort of the best ones because they break a lot of the conventions of the other ones. I'm finding that I like a lot of the talking in those old Looney Tunes cartoons. I feel like the Foghorn Leghorn ones are easily my favorite, and I don't think they are most people's favorites. And I feel like the Roadrunner ones would be absolutely my least favorite because there is, I think most of those are silent. I know that the Wile E. Coyote, I almost forgot his name. I know he does have a voice. I can hear his voice as I'm thinking about it now. But I think that's usually in his Bugs cartoons because he is in some Bugs cartoons where he's chasing bugs too, and not just the Roadrunner. Even in the Roadrunner ones, he might speak. Obviously, the Roadrunner doesn't say anything but meep meep. But yeah, on a scale of like those are purely visual comedy versus Foghorn Leghorn is always saying some wacky shit. And he's saying a lot of things at once, and it's a onslaught. I feel like I like those better. This is just to explain sort of my taste in those and what I admire most about those, and it is the timing. Like Foghorn Leghorn going on a monologue about how he can shut up when he's not shutting up. Greatest thing I ever saw. Even the two cats that aren't Sylvester that hunt Tweety birds sometimes in some of those really early ones, and even they're sort of... I like the idiots in the old Looney Tunes cartoons, I think. And that's probably why Daffy is my favorite one. Now, Daffy in this movie, even though he does somewhat do just his best hits where he's doing the this means war and everything, but him and Donald, who Donald is probably my favorite, what do you even call them? I nearly said Muppet. The Disney cartoon blokes. I love fucking DuckTales, alright? And Donald's kind of in that sometimes. Scrooge McDuck didn't show up in this. Maybe he was in the onslaught at the end when a bunch of them come running out. I don't want to say definitively that he wasn't in it. I think I would have peeped him if I did. Big fan of the 80s DuckTales cartoon. Had a bunch of DVDs for that as well as a kid. And it is on Disney Plus. Now, I did scramble my family's Disney Plus. Scrounge, I think was the word I was looking for there, not scramble. Because we've had it for a while, but I've just never had any use for it. So I rounded it up for this movie and realized that those old DuckTales seasons are on there. So I might get lost in some DuckTales cartoons one of these weeks and you won't see me. I'll be gone for months. That shit's so good. I also checked and there's like 100 episodes of that shit. And I feel like I've seen maybe 30 at most. Nonetheless, Donald and Daffy have the best sequence. They have the best cameo. I guess Betty Boop is cute too. Dumbo's cute, but he's in it for like 5 seconds. But yeah. The Daffy and Donald back and forth was really cute, and I liked it a lot. Daffy shit-talking him. This is the last time I work with a duck with his speed impediment or whatever. They were all great. So shout out to Daffy for being the best. These fucking ducks, huh? But yeah, it didn't really have the appeal of those 50s cartoons. And it's Miller's fault for making me anticipate that it would. Now I have a note here. Did I miss anything here? I like old Looney Tunes cartoon. This movie old short. Roger Rabbit is not Bugs Bunny. The best of his type of thing is the Donald Duck. The piano off. I said all of those things. Now I don't really have pointed criticisms or praised really. I think and this is sort of my top note, is that I don't think I'm as enamored with the movie as I should be. So I guess I was a little disappointed then. It's still getting 4 fucking stars though. I got my recap note at the top. It looks really good. I like the gimmick. I like how serious the movie takes itself. This is something they mentioned in that Red Letter Media review. I'm sorry, it framed basically my viewing of this, so I'm going to bring it up a lot. And I'll feel bad if I bring up these points like they're my original thoughts when I'm just jacking them from them. But with the piano line we mentioned earlier, dropped a piano on his head. How sad. Everything in this movie is played very straight. It's not... and I like things like that. I like wacky things that take themselves hyper seriously. Now, obviously, sometimes I like it and I take it seriously. Now, obviously, in the movie, you are supposed to take things seriously, but also part of it is that it's so out there that it in turn becomes funny again, rather than you having to laugh at it. A lot of things, and especially this has become increasingly more and more of a thing in the more internet meme age, and things that are being made in the 2010s and the 2020s now, is there is a need to be very self-aware, and if you're doing anything wacky, you have to be self-aware about it, or fear the wrath of being made fun of. You can tie this into Marvel movie comedy. I had that whole fucking monologue at the beginning of my Black Sails video about this stuff and about self-awareness and it permeating through the 2010s and stuff like that. I feel like the new Space Jam has to have a bunch of self-aware jokes about how wacky everything is. Whereas Who Framed Roger Rabbit does not comment about how wacky things are. It doesn't have to do that. It takes itself profoundly seriously, especially with the drop the piano on his headline and things like that. Valiant is an alcoholic. He is very sad, despite the wackiness going on around him. And despite the world he inhabits, he's still a fucking depressed drunk. And the movie is about him coming out of that and getting his life back in order. It's getting hot, chat. Who decided to start movie night? This fucking thing that has me cramped in fucking this goddamn heating pile of metal for an hour or two at a time. Ooh. When it's becoming summer. It's not even summer yet. It's already like 31 degrees outside. It's fucking 5 p.m. in the afternoon. Oh, let in the cool air, chat. Let it in. Oh, we're not cutting this out. Oh, I feel it on my legs. Ugh, now it's closed again. Ooh, where are we up to? Oh, I don't think I even said this at the beginning, but I feel like this review is going to be a lot shorter than the other two. The other two took up the whole battery. How long have we been going so far? I feel like we've been talking a bunch of shit. We're at 27 minutes. If this makes it to an hour, I'll be proud. Let's not overstay our welcome. We don't have to bullshit so all of the fucking videos look like they're all very long and detailed. If we don't have too much to say, we don't have to say too much. You know what I mean? It looks very good. I guess my biggest criticism for the movie and my next note here is that the climax of the movie takes a little too long and is a little uninteresting. I feel like the last 20 minutes are all in the Acme studio thing. Now, apparently the Acme studio is like a big old Hollywood studio, and this is like a reference to something. They mentioned something about that in the Red Letter Media video, but it went completely over my head. I don't know too much about old Hollywood history. In fact, what I do know probably comes from those Looney Tunes documentaries, because a lot of it is about the behind the scenes and the studio system of like the 20s and 30s going into the 40s and 50s and 60s and so on. Nonetheless, so this is a whole big reference, but a lot of like they have the big like, because they have the chemical that kills the toons, because you can't kill a toon, you can beat them with you can squash them, smash them, smick them, hit them with a piano, and they'll get up every time because they're toons, Lamau, and we're taking toon logic into account. But with this special fucking chemical, the bad guys have figured out a way to kill toons. They kill a shoe earlier in the movie, a very cute shoe. Again, another moment that's played very serious. And it's very sad when this fucking cute little shoe gets this animated shoe with a little face on the fucking heel. No, it's on like the top part of the shoe. You know what I'm talking about. And it's fucking screaming as it's getting killed in this vat of fucking chemical no-goodery. What do they call it? They don't call it the soup. They don't call it the vat, I don't think. It might be something goofy like goop or something like that. I can't believe I can't remember right now. But they've got it on like a hose, and they've got Roger and Jessica Rabbit hanging there, and they're sort of like, it's sort of like going side to side, and it's inching closer to them, and Eddie Valiant, not Jimmy Valiant. Eddie has to save him by like turning it, and a bunch of times it gets turned, but then it's coming back, and he's got to get back there again and turn it around, and then you think they're done with the bad guy because they squish him, but it's revealed that he's a toon and he can't die from being squished. And then they gotta put him in the vat and all that things. It is funny, and I've only started seeing this this trope be made fun of on Twitter a little bit recently, and I can't believe I'd never thought of it before. But in kids' movies, it is funny how the villains always have like horrific, violent deaths. Now, a lot of the time, it is something of their own making, or it's something they've used on the good guys earlier in the movie. Like I don't know why I'm thinking. I've been thinking about this movie a little bit recently. Is like I think it's 2005. Me with the years again. But Robots, the movie Robots. I remember watching it a lot as a kid, playing the PS2 video game a lot as a kid. We should revisit that at some point on movie night. Once we get it, I think after like the 10th episode, we might get into some rewatches. Maybe every like 5th one will be a rewatch or something. And we're putting Robots at the very front because I'm very curious what that movie is like. We'll get a lead RE, we'll round up Jockey Bacon, and we're going to watch Robots. That is the name of that fucking movie. I'm so curious. Did it come out in 2005? Am I a fucking genius? If I put in Robots, it probably isn't going to come out, so we'll put film. I accidentally typed a MILF after Robots. That would have been funny. It is a 2005 American computer animated science fiction adventure comedy film produced by I don't need to read anymore. Remember Wonderbot? I kind of do. What a Time to Be Alive. Family comedy, an hour and 31 minutes. That's another thing about Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Easily the shortest movie we've watched so far. Now, I think Scarface is nearly 3 hours long, so we're getting back into some long fucking movies next week. But nonetheless, you gotta do what you gotta do. Oh, I think last time I was talking about how Gone with the Wind or Citizen Kane might be number 4. Turns out Gone with the Wind is 4 hours fucking long, so we're gonna hold off on that one a little bit. We'll get back around to it. Citizen Kane isn't even 2 hours long, but I don't know. The other 3 that I mentioned, Apocalypse Now, Gaslight, and Scarface, which is what we're doing next week, all jumped ahead of the line in my brain, in my lustful brain, for what I wanted to watch. Plus, that was to watch an old movie, and Gaslight seems cooler too. Plus, it's got the connection through the lead actress, and it's an easier way to dip your toe in to old things when you're familiar a little bit. You know the drill. Nonetheless, the climax. Oh, we were talking about the tropes towards the ending, how the villain is usually killed violently, and then there's like a very dramatic, like everything is happy ending where everybody is reunited and they all have like a celebration thing. Roger Rabbit had both these things, right? The dude ends up in the goop, or whatever it's called. Maybe it'll come back to me like Eddie's fucking named it. Like all the tunes run out, having been saved, and Toontown is left to them by Acne, the dude that died earlier in the film, was murdered by Doom earlier in the film, the main bad guy. And it's like this triumphant cheer. I don't know. I guess the last 2 movies we've watched haven't had very happy endings. We had a death and a separation, and now we've just got the Toon celebrating because we won. So maybe that's why the contrast hit me so hard. But everything about the climax is a little, it got a little boring, I think. Now, a great part of it is when we do get rid of the henchmen, my favorite hyena blokes. They have the great scene earlier in the movie where they show up initially in the same warehouse. And then also the scene in Eddie's apartment where they come in and interrogate him. That's probably my favorite scene in the movie, maybe. I like these fucking wacky hyenas. They were the things that felt closest to sort of that 50s cartoon stuff that I really liked. The sort of babbling henchmen who were a bunch of idiots and sometimes confident and frightening for a scene or 2 before being undermined as fucking idiots. I like it a lot. And I like those fucking hyenas a lot. But yeah, the climax is a little thing. Even the Toontown segment is a little, like, it all looks good, obviously, but like the cameos or whatever, him being chased by the girl that initially looks like Roger Rabbit but is actually some old desperate woman. I don't know. I feel like, and this was similar with Casablanca, and maybe I just like the beginning of things. That was a Mad Men reference. Everybody's laughing. The more I think about that Mad Men line, doesn't everybody only like the beginnings of things? Now, Faye is talking in that scene very specifically about relationships and how Don only likes the beginning of things, which is true. And I feel like that's definitely true for relationships. The honeymoon period or whatever, the first 6 months of dating or whatever, is always the rosiest and the nicest. Maybe I'm like that with movies, where I'm liking the first 40 minutes of something more. I don't know. Blonde, we were liking that thing the whole way through. Not that we didn't like the later parts of Casablanca, but it was the beginning 40 minutes, I think, that were truly the 5 stars that it now claims were established in those first 40 minutes. And I feel like the beginning of this is also a lot better than the later half. At least that's just my opinion. The intro has all the Eddie stuff, which is cute. The dance introduction performance for Jessica Rabbit is another great scene. The introduction to Roger, the animated sequence at the beginning, all the baby stuff. We got to talk about Baby Herman. I've just remembered his name too. Classic character. Hilarious in all of his sexual misconduct. He's constantly sexually harassing all the dime pieces around him in the most lovable, funny way, and the most problematic of ways. I think I wrote down some of his lines. On Jessica, just before we get into the baby too much, Jessica, I feel like she was a character with a lot of potential and a lot of personality, but I feel like she wasn't in the movie enough. And even when she's there at the climax, her and Roger really don't do anything. Obviously, their dynamic is really cute. One of the things, like one of the old videos that I would have watched like 5 years ago, made the point that Jessica Rabbit is like sexualized by everybody and everything in the movie, from the people to, obviously, she even has the line, I'm not bad, I'm just drawn that way. It's out of her control, basically, that she is this slim with this tight of a waist with that big of boobs and butt and whatever. But Roger never really sexualizes her at all, and is always like looking at her and is nice to her, and she even has the line that he makes her laugh, and that's why she's into him and stuff like that. Another great line towards the end is, I love you so much, or whatever, I love you more than a girl has ever loved a rabbit, or whatever. Cute fucking lines. But I feel like she wasn't actually in it enough. Like in Toontown, Eddie reunites with her for a second. But I don't know. I would have liked more Jessica Rabbit, I guess, and not even in a horny way, in a substance way. Not that sexuality can't be substance. On my Jessica Rabbit note here, I have the build up to seeing her is clever, because obviously you know her name is Jessica Rabbit because she's married to Roger Rabbit, and we haven't seen her, but she's been talked about for like the first 10 or 15 minutes of the movie, so you think she is also going to be a rabbit, and then she slowly steps out from behind the curtain. It's a humanoid tune, a very sexy one. So it's a little subversion thingy there. And her coming out and the whole performance, the musical number, it's all great. Roger's the only one that doesn't sexualize her. I remember seeing that in an old video. The baby's funny. And then I do have the baby lines here. But more Jessica Rabbit. Now, moving on to Baby Herman here. I'm pretty sure I'm still getting that name right. I just wrote down some of his lines. The voice is great. Every line he has is funny. What do you know, you dumb broad? You got the IQ of a rattle. My problem's I've got a 50-year-old lust and a 3-year-old dinky. He didn't even say winky, which I feel like is... Oh, now I'm remembering. Winky is just things... is just something people generally say when they're referring to, especially a baby's penis. But now I'm remembering the fucking Boardwalk Empire scene where Jillian says winky. And the trauma's coming back. Boardwalk Empire, what a show. Speaking of Boardwalk Empire, to bring that back in, to bring this reference, that it wasn't just out of nowhere, and this tangent isn't going nowhere, to bring it back full circle. In my Boardwalk Empire reviews, also I've done playlists up on the second channel now. I'd been neglecting them basically since I started it, but now Movie Night has a thing, all the Attack on Titan videos, all the House of the Dragon videos, and even all of the Boardwalk Empire videos, of which there are 3, of me talking as I go through the seasons. In one of my biggest takeaways from Boardwalk Empire was how good the performances were and how good they were in capturing sort of the stereotypical tropes of the time in the voices, and how perfect they were played, like Mickey Doyle or even Nucky or everybody sort of like, and it's like a voice you've heard before or referenced in something you've seen in the past, but you can't quite put your finger on it. Now obviously this is set 20 years after Boardwalk Empire, though there are references to Prohibition throughout, where there's the hidden room that Roger is stashed in for a little while in the back of the bar, where they used to, obviously it was, I can't remember the specific name for it, speakeasies or something like that. Sneak easy, I don't know, something like that, where it's the hidden place where you make the alcohol and party and drink the alcohol during Prohibition. It's not that far removed. But a lot of the voices in this movie were also sort of like those old voices you hear, and there's something so satisfying about them. I love old accent voices, especially from sort of the earliest 20th century, do we call the fucking 1900s? I think so. It's fucking sick, bro, and I like it. But baby Herman over here, every line he has is great. The fucking IQ of a rattle, classic. He's lustful, but he's got a 3-year-old penis. Terrible stuff. Eddie relates to his struggle there when he brings that to his attention initially. It's cute. Not the baby's penis, but his lust. Just my note here says patty cake, which is funny because obviously this movie is, I think, PG. There are references to murder and sex throughout. It's not too much of a baby kids movie. It's really not that much of a baby kids movie at all. But earlier there's a scene where you hear sex noises outside of Jessica Rabbit's room, and then we don't actually see what's going on, but we see Eddie taking pictures. This is sort of the inciting incident for him getting involved in the whole thing, because he then shows these pictures to Roger. And the joke is sort of very clever, because at first you're like, oh, she's having sex with the old guy? She's married. That's no good. And then Eddie takes the pictures and he's like, there's no fucking way. And you still don't see what's happening. So you're like, are they really having sex in there? Can you have sex with a toon if you're a person? Is she actually cheating on him? It's like, and is this actually happening in this kid's movie? And you sort of mind goes through a bunch of those things. And then you see the photos and it's of them playing a hand game. But the allegory is still there, and Roger still freaks out like it's a betrayal, and so does everybody in the scene treats it as a betrayal. So it's sort of an allegory for him cheating on her. Now, obviously, we learn later on that it's a whole part of a scheme, and that the dude, the supposed wife stealer, is actually the good guy in the end. The old man, Acne, one of the good guys in the end. Through his last will and testament. Watch the movie, alright? It's the whole plot, alright? But obviously it works. Initially, it's like a subversion of, like, they weren't actually fucking, they were playing the hand game. But then the hand game is also treated in the narrative as an allegory for her cheating on him sexually, probably because they couldn't actually show that in the movie. So you're left like, is this just a little allegory meme? Is patty cake the equivalent of sex in this world? It just works on the double of, like, the initial subversion and then the, like, actually we're treating this seriously. And it's not a wacky joke, so it kind of doubles there. So that was clever. My next note is just the Toontown sequence, Bugs and Mickey on stream at the same time. We talked about that. The weasels. They're not hyenas, they're weasels. Might be my favorite part of the movie. We talked about that. A bunch of technical references I don't entirely get. We talked about that. The little build-ups and payoffs. This is something that Red Letter Media talks about in all of their videos about how to master the filmmaking process. You just got to be simple. You just got to have the little teasers and then the build-ups and then the fucking blow-off. And the movie has a bunch of them, a bunch of the devices that come back in the final act, in the big final climax standoff, are all established early on. It's all very cute. There's a bunch of different examples of that throughout the movie. And my last note is just the noir mystery elements, as if I'm supposed to talk about that. Like I haven't done it already. But yeah, the unfolding mystery stuff. Honestly, for the mystery, I felt like a lot of the time the movie was moving too fast for me to keep up with, and I was just like, whatever, they'll explain it. So I didn't think about it too hard. So my comments on whether or not it's a good mystery or something are kind of moot, because I didn't really think about it too much. I just went along with the movie. Honestly, now I don't know if I can figure it out. The bad guy wanted to destroy Toontown with his big vat of killer chemicals so that he could build a freeway. And there is a cute through line of, like, they're fighting against the construction of a freeway because Los Angeles has the best public transport or something, because they have, like, a rail line. Or it's not quite rail, it's like the cart things. I forget what they're called. That are, like, in the middle of the road. They feel very old-timey. I don't know what it's called. It's not literally rail. It's like it's cart something. I don't remember what the fuck it's called. Now, obviously, Los Angeles contemporaneously is notorious for having absolutely no, as most of America does, no public transport and terrible traffic. and it's supposed to be an awful place to live. And there are freeways everywhere, and sort of them fighting this new nifty idea that nobody will buy into of freeways is kind of funny and cute. Freeways are all over the world, and I assume that's most of the way Americans do travel. In Los Angeles, but that was all a cute time. And in the Red Letter Media video, they talk about how this is sort of tied into sort of Chinatown in some way in another movie where it talks about sort of how Los Angeles, the city, came to be, and sort of how the rail was undermined or whatever it was called in favor of freeways or something like that. So there is an additional bit of like commentary and subtext there that is sort of goes over my head. That is probably interesting in context and with that knowledge. I don't know, maybe you at home have all this knowledge and would appreciate that this is incorporated into the film. Me, it goes over my head, but what the fuck do I know? Well, that's literally point nothing. But I select the movie anyway. I don't know what else there is to say about the movie right now. I've run out of notes. I can't really think of any scenes. I like the romance with all of the main characters, with the cartoon main couple and the real life main couple. Her sort of being a rock for him, in terms of Eddie, it's cute throughout the film. They do cockblocky with the kiss throughout. One time Roger's looking on and he's got hard eyes and his ears are making a heart as they nearly kiss in the cinema, which is cute. And then I think at the end they're also undermined somehow. I don't remember. But it was good. I liked it. And it was interesting. I assume this is one of those film noir tropes or thingies. Is sort of the older love story. Everybody's broke in the movie too. Eddie's broke. She's broke. She's working in a bar as sort of a waitress when she's probably too old to be doing it, and stuff like that. And they have memories of a trip that they went to a beach somewhere. I forget the specific place. I don't think it's literally the Bahamas. That's a bit generic. I think it's something else. But something like that. They're on a beach and hanging out and stuff, and it's like the one happy time they have in there. And their paycheck to paycheck existence and stuff like that. It's all cute. It builds well into itself. Other than that, what is there left to say? We're doing Scarface next week. It's hot as fuck in here and I don't like it. And a 4 stars, I believe. I don't know, it didn't exactly floor me in the way something does to get more than 4 stars, I guess. But I appreciated it on basically every level. I haven't been writing actual reviews for this Letterboxd stuff. I kind of like it that way. Nonetheless, I'm trying to get it up now to make sure that I did actually give it 4 stars. But I believe I absolutely did, and I did. You would have known early if you were following the Letterboxd. God, it is hot in here. What other 4-star movies are there on here? What is it contemporaneous with? They gave a bunch of the Looney Tunes shorts 4 stars. The Harry Potter reunion thing. Pulp Fiction 4-star. Fucking true. Death Proof 4-star. Fucking true. Django Unchained 4-star. True. Prisoner of Azkaban only 4 stars. True. Ava 1.0. That's a pretty good movie. Berserk for 3rd movie. Infinity War 4. Those are my 4 stars. I know, it fits well in there, I think. I appreciated it. It was a fun time. It was a fun time. I'm losing it, Chad. Comment below. Check out the watch list. Tell me which movies you would want to be pushed to the forefront of our to watch list. I'm fine with this being shorter, and maybe if we don't have so much to say, others being shorter. We'll see how much I have to say about Scarface. The last 2, though, I felt like I needed to use the whole time to talk about them because they were fucking sick. With this one, if we don't, we don't. So I think that's where we sign off. Comment below. Casablanca video got no comments. I'm crying right now. The blonde one had a few comments, though. We got to hop into blonde discourse properly at some point. It's going to be the death of me. A lot of people saying a lot of dumb shit about that movie. But that's a story for another day. With that being said, everybody watch Scarface in the anticipation for us talking about it next week. Catch up on all the movies you haven't watched or in all the movie nights you haven't watched. And we'll see you next week. Support links in the description below. Thanks.